Hello and welcome to the Overly Animated Podcast, where we take animation seriously. We talk everything animation here, including Genlock, which we'll be getting into right now. I'm Dylan Hysen, and today I'm joined by Beatriz, Mourad.
Hello.
Hayley Nabuurs.
Hello.
And John McKenna.
Hi, everybody.
Yes, it is the Genlock season finale, episode 8 of Genlock here. We're discussing at the Overly Animated Podcast. And yes, I am back hosting. I was captured by the union after the first podcast. But I've returned. I think my copy was hosting for a while. I don't know, might have been, but Andy's on vacation, so I'll be doing the Genlock season finale. We're very excited to get into this episode 8, last episode. Check us out at overlyanimated.com. Search for us on iTunes at overlyanimated.com/iTunes, or YouTube is youtube.com/overlyanimated. Check out our previous 6, I think, Genlock podcasts at overlyanimated.com. Find the Genlock category. Big spoilers for this season finale of Genlock. A lot happened, and let's get into it. Beatriz, what did you think?
It's weird because the thing about Genlock is that it's always surprised me in the way it's interpreted where I thought it was going to go. And I think this episode is the one that's surprised me the least. I was in terms of the beats, I was like, okay, I kind of knew this was going to happen. This wasn't any sort of potential twist or anything. I was like, all right, I kind of figured it out. But at the same time, I had a lot of fun with it. I'm curious how everyone interprets mind melding thing now, because I don't know. I want to get into that a bit more in the discussion, but so I think it's a solid finale, but I also felt a little underwhelmed.
Yeah, I wonder if other people thought that, so we'll get into that. Haley, what did you think?
Well, I just caught up on the series this morning, so you have a
lot going on here, yeah.
There's a lot happening.
Tell me if it's better to binge it than it is by week, because that's something I'm also curious.
It would be, because I left the finale feeling like, okay, yeah, this is actually a good show. It felt very tight, and I think, I don't know if I would have noticed it quite as much if I watched it week to week, but the episodes, they flow into the other ones nicely, so it doesn't feel like, okay, recap, here we go, they just begin, which is good when you're watching them back to back. But I think the finale, from my perspective, was good. I don't think they did anything crazy, that I wasn't, like you said, Beatrice, that wasn't totally expected or unexpected. So I guess that's a negative for it. But for a first time season finale, I think it was pretty strong. I'm actually really surprised that Nemesis is defeated, but I don't know if I believe.
Is he
because he was copies, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's probably something else there. But yeah, I think it was really tight. I have no clue what's going to come next season, so I think that's maybe positive. I don't know. But yeah, I think it felt very solid to me. Nice. And was entertaining.
Nice. Okay. That's good. John, what did you think?
Watching it week to week, for me, I think it still had that fluidity because you jump right in and you basically know what happens to begin with. But I did sort of like the fact that we started the show with a big giant mech fight and we ended with a big giant mech fight, so it all came full circle. And it was a great mech fight too. It was the boss fight we kind of expected. It was Chase versus original Chase, which I appreciated. The character interactions, again, really solid, and it was just how it's been for the entire first season. I still wish I felt a little bit more emotional about Leon being in a coma now. I didn't really feel
no reaction to it from me.
Whomst?
Whomst?
Okay.
Whomst.
Who's Leon?
Yeah, although I thought it was more interesting, we got Sinclair, the cutscene with Sinclair at the end. That was pretty good, too. It leaves a lot of questions unanswered. I'm still a little annoyed that we don't know more about the Union by this point, but as far as season one goes for a show like this, I like it. I mean, Rooster Teeth probably never cancels anything, so when season 2 comes out, I'll be there waiting with bated breath.
I'm also going to give you a whomst to the person you mentioned at the end of the episode. Whomst is that? Okay. But
I literally Googled. I was like, Genlock Sinclair.
Oh, yeah.
Literal whomst from Hayley. I love it.
Because I thought he was... Well, I thought he was the guy who was actually bad, but he was the bad guy was trying to act like he was.
Oh, okay, that's it. Well, that's an interpretation. Okay,
no, that's the truth.
I think that's what
Sinclair is he's a good guy, but he's masquerading as bad. But
no,
that's,
but I thought
you
Finn.
can't say it's the truth. It's very no details. We'll discuss it.
Okay.
I didn't actually think of that, but
told me it was who he was. So.
Okay, well, we could be okay. People are saying, they're interpreting it as well. Yeah, we'll get into this explosive post-credit scene with our favorite character, Sinclair.
I thought it was going to be the Doctor, but this is besides the point. This is later on.
Weller's alive in the post-credit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then it was like, who are you?
No, he's the robot now. It's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought this finale was excellent. So first viewing, I had the reaction Beatriz had, and I was a little bit underwhelmed. And I do think this is a conventional finale. And I agree, I think it's a great point that the show is kind of surprising the entire way through, and then they concluded in an unexpected way. But I think that's good, because I think this is the perfect finale to the season. I think this really concludes everything that's important from the season. And it really hit me on second viewing, just this theme of identity that pervades the finale. I guess I didn't say the episode name in the beginning. Identity Crisis is the episode name. This is all about identity, much like this entire season, but especially this episode. And I think this episode has a lot of interesting and maybe profound things to say about like what constitutes being yourself, which is what the show's gotten into a lot with Nemesis and with Chase. But we really drive it and we expand it. It's been all about like Nemesis and Julian, but this episode makes it about a lot more than that. And it really expands the show's approach to identity. And what it did was it kind of made the entire season all come together for me, because I thought about other things like Val and gender fluidity, right? And like it's like, oh, I kind of understand everything we did this season. It's all about identity. And I think that's a great reaction to have at the end of a season. Like, it all really came together for me. It's just another great battle sequence. Genlock is just extremely consistent, really good action the whole way through. And like, compare it to 2 episodes ago, it's not as high stakes. It's not as like huge and epic. So you have to look at it a little bit more of a character specific level. And in that regard, I do think it's very fulfilling. So I don't know. I want to rewatch it even more than one more time, and see what I think of it then. But at this moment, I'm pretty high on it. And Genlock as a whole, I'll give a little anti-rant, good rant, and about how good Genlock.
Good
is.
rant.
But, yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, you guys haven't heard my takes on the show in a while. I'm
true.
flabbergasted by how good Genlock is. So we'll get into that later.
Same, man. Same.
Yeah. Okay. I guess we can start with Nemesis here, and we kill Nemesis, right? This is, I guess, our highlight. This finale is all about fighting Nemesis. We isolate him in this larger fight in Chicago. Shows an interesting approach to like different cities and battles in there, and I think that's been really cool. But we kill Nemesis. Do we? How do we like intersperse between the mind sharing realm, the Genlock realm, and then the physical realm? And Julian does triumph here. Beatriz, what did you think of all of that? It's a little bit high concept with the abstract world and then the physical world, and switching back and forth by that. And what do you think of our conclusion? Where did you interpret where we arrived at there?
So I think the previous big battle we had where they did because they do this often, right? They'll switch from the abstract where they're in when we're in their heads versus the battle sequences. And in the previous fight where it was like right before when we had that dance between Kazu and Val, that for me was more effective. I think they balanced it, they weaved it a little bit better because there was more of a sound element there. So there was like loud to very quiet. So it flowed a little better. Whereas in this one, it seemed a little bit more disjointed the way that they flowed back and forth between. And sometimes like when everyone was like talking, I was like, how long are the mechs just kind of like standing there while you're having this like 5-minute discussion? And like, is Julian just like he's letting you talk? But I mean, there are certain moments in this where it just felt a little bit more disjointed. Having said that, though, the actual things that the content we were getting, even though maybe the chunks we were getting, even though they didn't flow as well as before, they were still very interesting. It was like the character dynamics were really great. The interactions were fantastic. And it was things that we've been leading up to this moment, right? It's the whole, I wish that they had kind of introduced the whole like Chase not wanting to connect with everyone on that level a little bit earlier in the season, maybe if I binged it, and I may not feel that way necessarily. But so that it was great. So on a large level, I think it was slightly disjointed. But then in the end with I mean, it's a beautiful imagery. It's like the whole like together, united, we're stronger than the one person. Like it's kind of like going against like a bad egg, just not destroys, but like ruins the batch or whatever. It's like, no, it's like the bad egg, and we can all unite and fight it and defeat it, and it's great. So I really like that take. And I like the animation now with the mind melding where they all like become one person. So I really liked that.
Yeah, that was cool.
That touch of animation that we see it with two people, we see it, and that this was the episode that really introduced it, and that's like really emphasized it. But in terms of like how it concluded, like he's not dead. Like the
okay, well, what happened to him?
Like he basically what? So Chase is holding Julian and is just like, what is it he says? He goes like, what now? And it's like, what do you mean, what now?
Yeah, okay,
like,
let's go over this scene. So then you can tell me how you interpreted it. So Chase says, what am I supposed to do? And Nemesis says, kill these copies, just a copy of a copy of a copy. And then we see a bunch of Julian's, Nemesis is on the screen, and then he stabs him. So what did you think when it was happening?
Stab. He just he stabbed him. But don't forget the really important moment, which is that Julian touches Chase's like temple, like the side of his temple.
Nemesis?
Yeah, Nemesis. Okay. No, I call it Nemesis Julian and Chase.
That's very confusing.
Fine. Nemesis. I'll go with your way. I like the interpretation that they're both like different people. Whatever. Doesn't matter. But he touches his temple, and like the moment that happens, I'm like, okay, clearly he's infected him with like the Nemesis virus or whatever, and he's gonna be in him, like, and we're gonna see him kind of be corrupted from within throughout the next season or seasons, no matter depending on how long they want to drag it out. Which I don't think is long because they don't like dragging things out in Genlock. But so it's like, yeah, he's maybe gone, possibly not. Are we going to see? The one thing that may keep me away from like this potential, I guess, infiltration of Nemesis would be that because they're all so interconnected and this is just after they've all like bonded and united, I feel like the others may feel that or should feel that possibly, you know, it's like, and so I don't know if like they notice. My question will be, will they have known from the beginning? Right? Will they have been like, and then kind of are playing it cool, like in front of Chase, or maybe they don't, and they don't realize it.
So interpretation number one is he infected him with the Nemesis, like basically at the end with the infected. Okay, that's interesting. We'll get back to that. Hayley, how did you interpret that scene that we just went over?
Yeah, I think that he infected him somehow because Chase like turned into Nemesis there, so I think that was a pretty visual indicator of what was going on, especially because we saw in this like mind realm that they're in, it isn't just like for show when you become something else, like they become a one person when the five combine, you know? So I think there's precedent that it's not just for the aesthetics of that scene. And yeah, but I think the thing that is probably true, I don't know, is where he says like there's like all these copies and shows him all the copies. So I imagine when Nemesis was on the other side, they like the Union copied him, you know, to have backups.
Yes. Okay. Interpretation number two. There are more copies of Julian out there.
Yeah, this was just one version.
And they copied the original Julian.
Yeah, because why would you not? Like that's what you do. You should do that.
Why did you not copy a person?
Have backups. Everyone has backups of like important files.
You're supposed to back up your files. Yeah.
Yep, yeah, it's very important.
So I think they would do that. So that's probably gonna somehow be our villain coming forward. But I hope it's not just like, oh, Nemesis number 3, and then they have to defeat it in the 3rd season. Like they should have some variety. But I think that is what that was pointing to.
Okay, interesting. John, how did you interpret that scene?
I interpreted it as, well, first off, I just want to give the show compliments. This was the first time that Nemesis Chase was talking and I could understand him. So
I do think they made it a little clearer this episode.
They probably were like me if you said.
Yeah, I was like, I understood sentences. For me, it was my first instinct was to that. It reminded me of what Dr. Weller mentioned about Caliban, where he put like a fragment of his brain into the robot to keep him going. And that's how I sort of interpreted this. It was Nemesis Chase basically grabbing a mind bit out of regular Chase, and then from that making all these different copies by basically splitting off that memory into many different parts. So I don't think Chase was necessarily infected. I think he's still Chase, and the original Nemesis is now gone. And now in his dying breath, he basically made all these Chase clones, which is going to mean, we're going to see a bunch more Genlocks and all that. That's how I interpreted it. I'm not sure how I felt about that, though, because I then started to get a little bit worried. It's like, okay, so is our enemy just going to be just an army of Nemesis Chases now in season 2? I'm sort of hoping that's not, but I didn't quite feel like Chase got corrupted. I think he was just, used essentially as brain matter in a sense. So, yeah.
Okay, so there's a third. I didn't even think of it. There's a third interpretation, which is he created the clones in the moment. So it's not just that the Union had created the clones; he could have created it in the moment. I like relating that back to what Weller said. I think that's interesting. So I didn't think of the infecting him thing, and I didn't think of any sort of clones in the moment. I did think like, are there other copies of Nemesis out there that the Union made? I feel like the scene easily lends itself to being interpreted that way. But so I do think the scene's very unclear and confusing, and I think none of these are right. Maybe you guys can argue against that, but I would say none of these are correct. It's all metaphorical. This is what I'm going to say.
That's always an option.
This is what I've arrived at. This is just supposed to represent the conclusion that there is no original. Like that's just what we're doing here, which is that like I guess they look like each other at some point, but it's like, okay, maybe Nemesis was at some point the original Julian. But this is all about Ship of Theseus, as we've been getting into all season, visually and very blatantly. And like, is our Julian still the original Julian, even though he's not physically the same person, or he wasn't the same person in terms of his mind? It's just a copy. This is like, yes, they're the same he's like killing the copy. They're all copies. I think it's all just lending itself to them all just being, there is no original. We're all like, that's the big theme of this episode is we're all different people than we were before. There's no true version of ourselves. This is what Miranda says at the end. This is what, everyone is saying when they're all mind melding together. Like we move on. We're different people. No one's original Julian anymore. We're all copies. So that's why everyone's just a copy of a copy of a copy. They're both copies. All of us are just copies of our former selves. I hope that this is true, because if not, then I don't know what we're doing with the scene, and it's weird plot wise. But I think if it is thematic and that's just all it's supposed to be, then I like it a lot.
Are you saying?
Just a quick reminder: Ship of Theseus. That's if you take a ship apart and you put it back together the same way. Is it the same ship? Right.
So you have a ship. If you take it board by board apart and then rebuild it, is it the same ship that it was before? That's like a philosophical quandary that the show it wrote it on like the whiteboard, and it's been in like a lot of episodes, and that's kind of thematically what they're doing with identity in a lot of the season. Beatriz?
So you're saying that all the scenes where they're in like their minds, that's all metaphorical.
Well, I guess
just
so.
This one. Or you're saying,
the whole show is a giant metaphor.
It's not physical, right? It's not. Well, it's like a mental realm.
Right? No, totally. But what I mean is, is it a metaphor in the sense of like it's just a visual metaphor for us, the audience, to understand what's happening, but for the characters themselves, that's not what they're actually seeing.
That's interesting. I think probably it's not so something that can be so simply visualized. It's like an experiential thing.
Because what I'm saying, what I'm trying to get at is, are you telling me that in this interpretation of the show, Kazu and Val don't actually know that they dance with each other. That was just all for us.
No. The ship is still alive, and there are more ships that this finale talks about. But no, I don't. I think that just this scene is there's nothing that happens here that needs to be like discounted by saying the entire realm is a metaphor. It's just like it's very vague dialogue, and they're like touching each other. I don't think there's anything definitive that I need to say like this is not true. I feel like it's very up in the air, and I think because it's so unclear, it makes me think that it's just supposed to be the thematic stuff. Because I think like Nemesis in general has always talked very vaguely and thematically, and I think that this is kind of his conclusion here. And I feel like what I'm supposed to get out of this scene is like in the question of who's the real Julian, Chase versus Nemesis, the answer is neither. That's what I'm taking away from. Yeah, I think both is another way of putting that, but I think neither is an even better answer because of what Miranda says later. So, neither are who Julian was before. They're both different people at this point. They've both been through new things. I think that's probably what the scene's supposed to tell us. That could be true even if there is some plot thing happening. So I don't want to say that it's definitely not happening, but yeah, I don't know. Is this a weak point if it's like, if we're confused by this scene? I wonder if everyone's confused by this.
It's in like a mental realm, so I think it's going to be confusing regardless. But I think they handled that whole like plane of existence pretty well, because you can interpret it to be like, oh, there he's showing him all the copies. But I also agree with you, Dylan. I think it could just be Nemesis. Like if he's thinking about all these copies, that's just a visual way he'd imagine it in his head. And that's what's being represented. So it doesn't have to mean anything.
And I think when we get into the thematics and the philosophicals of this, it's almost better that there is no like right and true answer to this, because I really do think that when they made this show, they really wanted it to be ambitious. And I think part of the ambition is not to have completely clear philosophical or theological points, like let the viewers interpret it their way. And I think and have that grow as the show grows. Then these questions grow too, and we keep coming back to this and with new information. I think that is, I don't think it's a weak point of the show. I think it might be the biggest strength of the show is that it's allowing viewers to come to their own conclusions. They have these debates, these philosophical discussions where there probably shouldn't be one right answer anyway.
Yeah, I think the show wants us to arrive at an answer with this question, but I do agree that it doesn't like hold our hands there. I do think like the first time I watched the episode, it wasn't so clear to me what was going on with the identity stuff. So I do think like it's something that it's presented in a way you want the audience to read into it and interpret it. And I think
if the show wants us to arrive at an answer, they probably didn't want us to arrive at the answer this soon.
Yeah. I mean, because that's the thing, like from a philosophical, theological level, the show is not giving us an answer, but also from a plot level, there has to be some form of I'm assuming that next season, there'll be more clarification of what just happened. You know what I mean? So it's like, and maybe not necessarily in terms of like, whether or not like who is the real Julian or not. It's more of just, okay, like is Nemesis 100% dead? Like, is Nemesis gone? Are there more copies of Chase or whatever theory that may be also from the plot perspective? It's not a weak scene for not giving us those answers. It's just seeding those plots for seeding the next season. So it's not, I wouldn't call it weak to leave a little bit of mystery.
Yeah, if it is a plot cliffhanger, we can address it next season. That's normal for finales. I think like if we're gonna try to view this as like a unit of this season, it's gonna be more satisfying for me if like it is just ends up being metaphorical. Let me quickly go through. I did this already, but I do think it's important. Let me go through everything that I found in the episode relating to what this episode is talking about with regards to identity. And we went over the kill the copy scene. I told you my interpretation of that. Neither of them are Julian. Both are copies. And I think Nemesis sees that at the end. I guess that's what he's saying. But we also have this scene with Miranda afterwards in which, the conclusion to our Julie and Miranda scenes. We always get them talking in front of beautiful scenery very solemnly. We've got that scene a few times this season, and they're all great. It's the same thing a lot, but I like it every time. And this is the conclusion to that with Miranda says, nothing's going to happen. We're both different people than we were before. You're not the only one that died 4 years ago. The Miranda I was also died. And so this is what I'm saying with no one's who they were in the past. We're all constantly evolving. This is something we also talk about earlier when we're getting into mind sharing. To start with, Chase says he's hesitant to do any sort of mind sharing because he doesn't have his body. He only has his mind left. What's he going to become if he lets someone in? And this is really why Chase has struggled so much with this nemesis thing, is because he hasn't grasped that identity is not such a rigid thing of who you are at one point is who you are always going to be. And so, this is why he's hesitant to mind share. It relates to why the existence of Nemesis hurts him so much, because him not being the original self, he's facing such a strong interpretation of we are our original selves. And what Val says, maybe you become a new you over a lifetime. Yes, you're supposed to change. Yaz says, becoming a new you, that's staying alive. So we need to guide Julian past this, where he was in thinking that, he had this trauma and it was, and he thought like, I was this person, this fully abled person, and that's who I was then, and now I'm this different person in so many ways. And this finale is about getting him past that as well, to him recognizing, yes, he's a different person, but that's how we all work, and that's okay. And that's this like, and that's like, that's like beginning the episode, end of the episode. I love how that all is really tying together. It really completes the Julian Chase arc for me. I think how it plays into Nemesis, it really completes that as well. I think it's like pretty profound what we're getting into. Tying that into mind sharing, I think, is really interesting. It ties into the main romance arc of the season. It's kind of just a theme that pervades through every single element of the show.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed how it could also be tied to trauma.
Yeah.
You know, how the relationship between trauma and identity and the impact trauma has on identity. And it's this entire arc with Julian with Julian Chase is basically, when something incredibly traumatic happens to you, are you still the same person? Like, and you know, so it's also like, it ties into that as well, which I also like how they dealt with it.
Yeah, and it's not such an easy answer the show is giving, because the show's saying, yes, he is a different person because of his trauma, but that's okay. And I think that's really interesting. It'd be easy to say, no, you're not a different person. Trauma doesn't define who you are. What this show is saying is, yes, trauma does affect you, but
like everything else.
Like everything else. I think that's so interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, even though your identity changed, you have to almost allow your identity change as well, because, and I think the big point that Yaz made when they were mind melding was that if the alternative is you lock yourself in, you resist that change, and then you can't grow as a person as well. And that's almost worse, because you're not allowing yourself to grow. You're not allowing yourself to deal with things, and that can be a severe problem. And that's part of the reason why they were able to actually to have the 5v1 meld in the end too, because Chase had to accept the fact that he was not the same person that he was. And I think one of the bigger moments, which I think could tie into that identity thing as well, he's now permanently in his Haul-On. Like, he's not getting out of it anymore. Like, he can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
There was an actual cut of the link between him and his former body.
That's an important plot thing that happens here. He can't go back to his body.
And it's kind of interesting.
In the sense, why? And the thing is, why would he? Like, what does he have?
Exactly.
Why does he? He goes back and he's in a tube with half of his body cut off. Like, at least in the Haul-On, like, he can move, he can fight. He now has, I guess, unlimited uptime power. He can do pretty much anything, which is unlike the others. So it's like, everyone has the same cost, but for him, it's such a small cost, because what does he have to go back to?
I think it's also interesting because he's like kind of accepting that his body's never going to get fixed, which ties into the whole identity thing, because like his mind has been separated from his body for however many years, you know? And he probably always in the back of his head was like, oh, I'll get back to my body. I'll get back to my body. But like, that's not going to happen. So it was really interesting to see him change, you know, like into become a Holon person.
It's an important component of what I was talking about with this, that it's not just a mental thing. He also like needs to make this decision and become physically kind of become this new person, let go of who he was before, let go of his body. He is a new person now.
I'm happy he could still like hologram into stuff. Because
I didn't know if he said I'm stuck in the Holon, but he can still hologram. Yeah. So that's fine.
No, I think it's just the more I think about it, the more the actual body is such a great visual representation of the weight that he was carrying with him. And it just represents that trauma and that from his past, and like having to cut ties with it to be able to because John mentioned it was so small, but it's not. It represents everything of who he was. Like it was the scars of his past. And so to cut those links and to be able to then just immediately be free, and kind of very similar to like, you know, Captain Marvel with her hand tied behind her back. He was able to really just embrace his full powers now, his full potential, and without having anything holding him back. So the more I think about that, the more the episode is like improving for me, because now I'm making these connections of like, oh, like this is all really tying together really well.
Yeah, that's what I'm going through, and even more so with the things you guys are contributing. And I liked the vague way of getting into Captain Marvel spoilers without saying anything nice. I think reemphasizing a point John made before, which is like from a larger philosophical perspective, this is about how all of us like need to be open to change with ourselves, because like Julian has this extreme circumstance, but this is true of all of us with, I think like the way society views things, there's like some rigid sense of self, but it's regardless of if you think that or not, you do change as a person, and it's a lot healthier if you're open to that, and you can grow more as a person more easily. I think that's what the main identity themes like tie into from this larger perspective. I think that applies to a lot of non-Julian characters in the show as well. And I find that a really satisfying theme that we got into this entire time.
And it doesn't even have to be trauma related either. Like if I think all of us can look back and realize that our identities have changed a lot, even within the last 5 years or even 10 years. Like high school me is way different than college me, who's way different than adult me. And if you really look back on it, it's like, would you really want to be the same person you were when you were 13 years old? Of course you wouldn't. Why? Because 13-year-old you was an idiot. And you've hopefully learned from that.
Yes, I agree. I think it's a really satisfying theme for me. I definitely like agree with it, and I think but the way they apply it to trauma, I think is not necessarily something I've thought about so much, and applying it to like this sci-fi setting is really interesting.
Mm-hmm. Like I was not expecting this show to be so deep and like effectively and consistently deep. So it's really surprising because it doesn't come across as being like, oh, they're trying to be like deep about identity and stuff, but like I just want to watch the mech fight. It's actually like part of the show structure. And like all the twists and turns. Like I didn't get to say it because I was on the pod, but that whole twist about how like Nemesis was a copy of Julian, I think was just so smart and added so much depth to it. And we see it in this finale where the end could have been just a big mech fight of like, oh, we got to defeat Nemesis, but it was actually like a whole thing about moving past your trauma and discovering your true identity and stuff, which is like amazing, and it was convincing and really well done. So yeah, I'm really very impressed by this whole scene and show in general.
The show is better if you add in the things we're talking about, because I think like Beatriz was saying, I think like you watch it and it's a solid action show with like some solid mech stuff, and like it's good, but if you add in this layer, I do think it like becomes very good. And I would argue that I think everything we've talked about, it lends itself to like this 20-minute discussion on deep philosophy. I think it's very much intentional by the show. I don't think we're reading into things.
Oh yeah,
like,
that's the nice thing. It's totally just like, yeah, that's what the show did, and they committed to it all the way through.
And the ironic thing as well is that but after I saw the episode, I went back and I read some like initial reviews from when the series first came out, and I remember it's so funny looking back how everyone was like, this is just a dumb mech show. Why is this so ambitious?
Yeah, guess what?
Guess what? It is ambitious.
Yeah, we're making fun of it for being ambitious, but it's ambitious. It has been ambitious, but it's been ambitious in a fantastic way. Like I think that's the conclusion we get. Like it really is it's executing on its ambition, and I think that's one of the main things that I take away from the season, is that it has executed on the lofty things it's tried to do. More on that later. Let's get into some of the other specifics from the finale, because there's a lot here. We can go start to finish here to make sure we hit on everything. We've talked about a lot already, but this is this first episode. We have the new Hollands in action. After end of last episode, they're introduced, and interesting decision putting them in the intro and then not us not getting them really until the last episode. But it's sad. It makes you it's like, oh yeah, they're here. It's exciting. And we'll get to that in a little bit, like what they can do. We get a big Migas episode here. He. I don't know if it's a good thing, but he calls them, and we learn that we haven't even talked about this. We learned that the anvil is actually okay, because what Dr. Weller replicated the like green light safety signal from the nanotech, and they like broadcasted that, and so the nanotech didn't attack them.
I'm calling bullshit.
Yeah, like come on, guys.
I think it makes sense. It's just not necessarily satisfying, considering the episode 6 is so good because of how depressing it is. Like, and so you reverse it a little bit here. I don't think it matters that much because I don't care about the anvil, which is why it was a good decision to go away from the anvil. But
True.
It does like, oh really? Episode 6 was like the best episode of the show, and it was because it was like everything went to shit, and now it's not to shit. So I don't.
Everyone's okay.
Yeah.
Like,
well, except for Weller.
Weller, though, it is good that we kept Weller dead, because I definitely thought he was staying alive, and I still think he's kind of alive in Caliban. But he's like a sliver of him is alive. That's what we presented. I think probably more of him is alive in Caliban than we think, or like there's a backup of him.
Oh no, okay. So do you know in the beginning of the episode when there was that scene with Chase talking to Fatima, Caliban is looking at her from a distance. And Chase notices, and he's just like, okay, we're going to go, because he wants to stop Caliban from doing anything. So clearly there was like, and Caliban can't like let her know that there's a little bit of Weller in him.
Right,
so
okay. Yeah, so
definitely there's more to Weller in him than we think.
Yeah, let me recap that. So we're going to Chicago to fight Nemesis. We get this scene of Cammy giving Henry Wu the robo dog to take care of, which that was good. And we get to the, like Beatriz said, Caliban waves to Dr. Jha to and yeah, that was interesting, right? Because that makes you think maybe there's more to Caliban, there's more of Weller in Caliban, or maybe Caliban's just vaguely aware that this was Weller's ex-wife. He did reference that last episode.
Like part of his brain is in the robot. He's got to have something more than just his knowledge,
Yeah. I think there's more there than we're thinking. That was a nice little thing, though.
I mean, there's his wit.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm fully on team Caliban is funnier than Dr. Weller. I know that was discussed last podcast. Caliban, we did not unleash Caliban this episode, but I'd say I don't miss Dr. Weller. Let's keep Caliban. He's much funnier. Like, I'm fine with that.
He's less shady, so that's good.
Yeah, I trust Caliban I don't trust Weller.
Like, why do you not tell them about knowing how to deactivate nano things? That should have been...
He really should have just told them more things.
Like, come on.
This is really the flaw with all geniuses. They just don't tell people enough things. But
especially when his plan was to like, oh, when I die, I'll give them literally my mind. Like,
just tell them already.
Just tell them when you're there, dude. That's from last episode.
He didn't think they were ready. I don't know. Well, Dr. Weller's still very interesting heading into next season. So I think that Weller, Caliban, what's up with that? That's one of my the main things I'm going to be interested in.
I'm happy he's still a presence in the show.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Okay. We have a lot of layers to this fight scene. We start with so Nemesis. He's upgraded and he's fighting the modded Hollands. And I think the main mods that are interesting are Yaz's eye beams.
That was funny.
Yeah, and cool. Val can like cloak.
That's cool.
We also get so Nemesis can like read their minds in the Genlock realm. By the way, Hayley, this is all just Voltron. Do you want Voltron Mind Realm or Genlock Mind Realm? What you got?
Genlock 100%.
Oh wow, Genlock Mind Realm.
Because it's actually good and engaging, and like you don't need to know if they're actually seeing this or not. Like, I can understand that it's a way of showing us what is going through their heads as the viewers, and I think they do it so well.
They executed it better than Voltron. I agree. Yeah, this episode is also just Power Rangers. Power Rangers, Voltron, whatever you want to call it.
Well, all mech is Power Rangers.
It's mech.
We thought we knew the show would become Power Rangers because of the intro, but this is like full Power Rangers. Call Justin. We gotta get the similarities podcast going. We get a lot of mind sharing. Cammy and Kazu mind share to start with. And then Yaz and Val mindshare. Beatriz, what did you think of this?
What
do you think of this ship?
Of Yaz and Val?
Yeah, Yaz.
Golden Cloak.
But I can see it, but I kind of really like Yaz and I mean, we talked about it last week about how it can be read as platonic, and that would be great. But I'm rooting for Yaz and Chase personally.
Same. I think they're so good.
I also think this is a big Yaz and Chase episode.
I thought they were gonna kiss, actually.
Yeah.
I think it not only is this like a great relationship for Chase, but because I feel like Miranda as well. Like we'll definitely talk about Miranda, but I just think that there's just a lot of history between Yaz and Chase that we haven't explored yet. But in terms of Val and Yaz, I mean, it still was like stunning and beautiful to see. And whenever I just want Val to unleash their dance moves. Like, I know they're a dancer, obviously. Every time, no one else mind melds and dances. Like, it's always Val who's incorporating these beautiful, dance moves. And I'm just like, can you and I dance or something, please?
Yeah, you want to mind share.
I would not mind sharing with Val.
Okay, yeah. A lot of, I agree with the Yaz and Chase stuff. Yaz was extremely soft with Chase in this episode, I think. They definitely, there's a lot of things we could do in season 2 with flashbacks to the two of them in the years that we missed. I think that's one of the main romantic options going forward. But I don't know, I was also feeling the Yaz and Val a little bit in the scene too. But yeah, we talked about Chase being hesitant to mind share. But then their upload time's expiring. Chase is going to stay behind. This is him now. Nemesis, then we actually see Nemesis manifesting into the mindshare realm for the first time, and that continues throughout the episode. Julian's uptime expires. Nemesis says he's like him now. And then they're fighting in the mindshare realm, and Chase shows him his memories, his human connections, I guess, to Nemesis. And it's I'll humanize Nemesis, but his reaction is to then go attack their bodies, because he's like, oh, that's a good idea. I'll go attack the people you love. Yeah. Which I thought, I like that. That seemed like a subversion of the typical no, I can talk you out of this, right? No, he can't. He's gonna immediately use that against him. Again, moving very fast. I feel like this is that's a thing that another show would have spent 10 minutes on, and Genlock just skips right past it, subverts it, let's go attack the bodies. So I do think there's a little bit of unexpected things. There's mostly, I think this finale is a little bit play by the numbers, but this is there's a few things that I think
it doesn't lose momentum, which is nice, because it could in those mind realm scenes. It could
they're all
very
fast.
Slow.
Yeah, I agree that I think Beatriz said earlier that the premiere Mind Realm thing was still 2 episodes ago. But I wonder could they have done some more eloquent, beautiful mind sharing stuff this episode? But I think it's in service of moving quickly. I think that's why we don't do anything too intricate. But it still could have been nice to see a little bit more, because we know the show's capable of it. Nemesis going to attack their bodies. Here's Leon. He's in Sinclair's Holon.
How you doing, Leon? Who are you again?
Yeah, I don't have anything to say about that.
The tank commander, dude.
Miranda stops Nemesis for a split second by getting out of her mecha, her chungi, and says, Julian, it's me. And again, this is another thing. Another show would have spent 10 minutes on this. And no, it's just he's only momentarily dissuaded and he's moving on. No talking him out of this. Again, I think we're subverting that. Chase decides, I'm going to fully mod myself now. I don't need this uptime. Chase gets hit by this nano rock stream from Nemesis. I got Jet in Avatar flashbacks from this. It was the same structure type of ground attack. This is very interesting. There's another time when I thought of Avatar too. When I thought when Julian and Nemesis I thought he was gonna like energy bend him like in the finale. But I feel like there's some Avatar influences on this episode. But yeah, again, like Chase gets seriously hurt, but we're moving past it. We're going. He's Chase is stuck in his home, but everyone's like, you won't become like Nemesis. You have us now. And then we get the visual climax, of the episode. They're all mind sharing together. Very rainbowy. We talked about this a little bit. We liked this.
Yeah.
I like it.
It's a lot. There's a lot here. There's a lot of screen cap options from this sequence, but
them all combined into one.
And then they all like combine, overlap. It's like, oh, the child generator. You insert 2 images here, and their faces combine. It's like, oh, here's the 5 of their child, right? Like,
wow.
Yeah.
That's what I thought of with that.
No, it is though.
I maybe could have slowed down a little bit here. We're moving real super fast through this, but it's very visually striking, and there's a lot of interesting things we're doing with color here. But they restrain Nemesis like in the robots and in the mind share place, and we're cutting back and forth. They have this thing with Cammy shutting down the nano because she gets the green light code from earlier. And then they defeat Nemesis together, and Julian like drops him from super high up.
Okay, question. This is the one thing where I was like, is this a plot hole? I'm not sure. Because Cammy, they asked Cammy early, because, okay, she receives the code. Then earlier when they first meet Nemesis, they go like, Cammy, the nanos. And then she goes like, they've already adapted. Or like they've already changed.
Oh, they changed a code.
Yeah. So
maybe because they were in the realm.
Maybe.
So I guess so they like extract it from Nemesis and then they throw it to Cammy, and Cammy then.
And I guess she does some sort of.
She needed to get the source back from him, I guess, and then adapt. So she like hacked it but she needed the new source code. I don't know.
Yeah. I just would have preferred if they go Cammy hack it or something. Just to like that was the one thing where I was like, I'm confused. It's a
little confusing. Yeah.
It's like they made a big deal about it because they used it at the anvil, and then it just got dropped right then and there.
Right. So
I think the hacking the nano stuff didn't super work. Just the beginning and this part, it was fine.
I think it's also because we don't exactly know what the nanos still are, because we don't know what the union is. So that's also the mystery.
That's one negative.
I'd like to
that's one of the big hitches so far, I think, is that we still don't really have a very clear idea of the villain. We've got hints of who the villain is. Last episode, I think we got some pretty good hints, but we still don't really have a clear picture of who the union is, what they represent, where are they, yada, yada, yada.
Like, I thought the end credits was going to be like, oh, the union's actually good somehow, like show us that, but...
Like, no, that they're
Sinclair.
Yeah, I think the season is better for having focused on Nemesis and not the Union as a whole. I think that was successful, but I definitely would like to immediately know what's going on with the Union. I think that's top of list for.
See, but my thing is, I would agree with you if the very people themselves didn't know what the Union was either. If that still was like, okay, we know it's the Union.
I think that's possible.
That's possible. And if it's possible, I'm like, they should have told us that they don't know themselves. Because at the moment, it reads as if we, the audience, are being like held, like we're being kept in the dark, but everyone else is kind of somewhat aware of what the Union is.
At the very least, they have a Union person in there. They have to know something. That's
why I'm like, you need to explain to us from like episode 1 what the nanotech was and what the Union is.
Well, they said something about how Yaz, like, I guess her parents were found to be intellectuals. Yeah, so there's something that I don't know.
And then there was Val, and then they learned about how Val had to flee Russia for, quote, societal pressures, which you could say, okay, so is Russia and Iran part of the Union then, or
we don't know?
Yeah, I agree with the point that that's a good point, that it's more of the audience being kept in the dark than the Union being the shadowy figure. Let's make it clear what we're doing with the Union. Are they just the shadowy figure that even their citizens don't know about, or are we just holding stuff back from us?
And there is a second element of this too. Like when the show was introduced, and in the early shows introduced, I think it was like Gray Haddock talked about how it's supposed to be like a culture war, and in some of the original episodes, Weller does mention how it is a culture war. I did not get a culture war vibe from this at all.
Yeah, I read those comments on Wikipedia for like it's all about this culture war, and it's like, oh, that's a red flag. But no, the season didn't get into that, so whatever. Like that's not what the show was about.
I mean, it's like it's fine, like because we got identity stuff, which is that type of culture. Sure, did it work? Hell yeah! But you're advertising it as this, and we're getting that. And it's not to say that culture war is necessarily a bad idea. It just feels like it kind of got shunted to the side.
Yeah, I don't know if I don't think it was like advertised as that. That's more of what they presented the concept as in like one interview or whatever. But
well, Dr. Weller mentioned it in an episode. He did,
yeah. I want to go back and look at that, but maybe that'll become clearer in the future seasons. But yeah, it certainly did not get that vibe from what we got into the season. The identity thing is like huge, and in the finale, it's all about that. So that's really what their main theme is. Maybe there's something else, some secondary theme. I don't know.
But I imagine we're going to have other seasons, right? So I'm happy to spend the first season getting to know our characters and actually feel invested in them, and then talk about like bigger, higher concept things.
I agree with how they approached it with the Union. Getting back to that, like keep it just the characters, keep it one villain with Nemesis.
Yeah. It'd be nice to know
the Union
something
later.
But
But Beatriz has definitely some points with like. We maybe didn't execute on that perfectly. It's a little bit frustrating with how we handled the Union. Like, idea is good, but we should have been clear with what we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I'm not asking for like focus on it. All I wanted was like in that first episode, one line of dialogue,
like in their briefing or something.
Yeah, just
say
explaining what it is, or like to like say to the citizens that they were trying to evacuate, like, no, this is whatever. Just very briefly. Whatever.
They could have done something without taking away the focus of what was really good.
or when Weller was explaining to the group like what Genlock was and that initial thing, it's like, oh, this is why we actually are the last hope against the Union, because the Union is X, and it's like that's all I needed, and I would have been fine.
Yeah. By the way, Beatriz, what's the conclusion on Florida?
So here's the thing.
No. Okay,
like, no. I mean, look, you didn't know this. You wouldn't know because you're not from Florida. But there's actually this neighborhood in Miami called Chicago. So it's like it's all there.
Oh, did you? Oh, wow. You thought you think we were in Miami the entire time and not in actual Chicago? Wow, what a theory.
Neighborhood that no one but people that from Florida would know about. No one from South. Only people from Miami.
They were in
would
on
know.
the joke the entire time, Beatriz. They knew.
They knew. They were like, of course, we have to ask a Floridian that what is that one place that we could take this, because we need to have it in Miami, and they did. They succeeded.
Okay, they succeeded. We got the scene with we talked about with Chase killing Nemesis. Leon, he's either dead or in a coma.
Do we care?
So
no.
we don't need to get into it. Leon's barely a character. This is the weakest part of the finale. Leon, the show thought that we cared about Migos, Leon, and Jody.
But why though? Like
Jody?
we haven't talked to them.
Was Jody
forever.
the one dating, or is it
Yeah.
Leon?
No, it
Which
was
one?
Jody.
Yeah, okay.
I have no clue.
The problem is
Jody is.
they didn't. Yeah, we didn't need to focus on Leon here. We don't care about them.
Also, like for the smallest of moments, I confused Leon and Jody. So I was like,
well, yeah. What's the
put
difference?
Jody in this thing, and now he's going to be part of the team. I will riot because I can't stand him.
Joey. Okay, Jody's the bad one. Okay. So we're actually sad about Leon, sure. Colonel's back. She says this is the day we turn the tide on the Union. We talked about this Miranda scene with Julian. They're both different people now. They're moving on. And then later, Miranda's one of the last shots we got. The last shot, Miranda waves goodbye to Chase, and then Chase in the Holon. Very very like, oh, this is Genlock. It's the person, and then the person, and the robot. But yeah, what do we think of the conclusion with Miranda and Chase? We start romantically, and it turns out they're different people now, and they're not together.
I think it's great. Like, let's be done with this, please, because
they were so wonderful together in episode 1, though.
Yeah, like I think they were, but it was just like, I don't know.
I think it's satisfying because they are different people, right? Like
exactly. Yeah, it's like, okay, guys, both accept that you are not in the same position you were once. Also, you're dating another guy. Like that's a thing. You just forgot about your boyfriend, but whatever.
He's not important.
Oh, I'm happy they had this conversation, and it was very adult, and now we can move forward and have it not be weird and awkward, and Yaz can come in, make her move, and it's all good.
Yeah. And for me, the big one of the things that I'm like kind of a little iffy about is that now I think it's kind of set that like Miranda's not going to be in the next season much, because the Anvil's not going to be in the next season much. And all throughout this podcast, I was like, no, Miranda's going to get her big moment later. In later seasons, we're going to explore her more. If they're just going to cut her off, that's it. And this is all we get from Miranda. And then she's going to be docked down to like a guest starring role. Then I'm sorry, but then I take back every defense I had of her, because it's like they really underwrote the character. They didn't really do anything with her. If this is the end of her as like
that'd be really surprising.
Billing.
But
well, look, I think what we can say is that Miranda wasn't fantastically utilized this season. She was one of the weaker points, I think, of the show. She was like this really intriguing character that we never really did much with. I think like her talks with Julian were good, but she never did much beyond that. I don't think it's like, I expect her to be a big part of next season. I do think like on the surface, we say we're not going to the Anvil, so Miranda wouldn't come with us, but it's Dakota Fanning. We gotta have her as a big presence next season.
I hope so. I want to see her. I want to. It's not like I don't.
Judgment on season 2 until then, but I think what we can say is season 1, Miranda was not great.
But I mean,
she was non-existent.
I mean, it's and I will say is, she was great for Chase's arc, which isn't great but
she
for
didn't,
her.
She never got her own arc.
She never got her own arc, but it's like, there are enough female characters, like say 10 years ago, she would have been the only female character and then this would have been problematic. But because she isn't the only female character, we're allowed to have like a female character in a small role that maybe didn't take big part, that is allowed to be kind of a supporting for a male character.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine because the show is so diverse.
Exactly.
But yeah, I do. The Miranda and Julian arc was fantastic, but there's just she didn't get her own thing. It never happened. And I would really love to see that next season because I do really like her character.
Yeah.
Like that's also towards the top of my season 2 wish list. Miranda doing stuff. Migos though, he's coming with us to presumably the science place, but we don't say that.
It's John all over again. Like,
we're just not going to.
What is it with like Miles? These characters.
Miles, stop coming with the main team. We don't want you with the main team.
And look,
he keeps following them around.
Like John, was Miles's creation with Monty and all that. He's in control of the writing for Ruby. So I'm just like, I can't, whatever. But how is it like that in another?
Migas is not that annoying, though, right?
It's not that bad. It's not.
We just don't care about him.
No, that's what I mean. I'm just like, why can't he get a character why can't he play a character that we care about? Is what I'm saying.
We'll grow to love Migas. We'll grow.
Yeah, we will.
I don't know. There was one moment where
Miranda and Migos, to be honest. I was like, I like that better. I would have preferred her with Migos than her with that other guy.
Oh, yeah, we like Migos better than Jody or Leon.
Jody.
Yeah.
He's the best of the three.
I still think it was like a homophobic move to name him like Jody. Like the only Jody we accept is Jodie Foster, okay?
They were teasing
and Jodie Whittaker.
And Jodie Whittaker, sure, yes.
Ship, yeah.
And Jodie Kitt.
But again, what I'm saying is that was like borderline homophobia right there.
Okay, that's okay. Yeah. Where's the Miranda gay ship? That's what we're asking.
Where is it?
Okay, post-credit scene. Hayley, you said this is original Sinclair.
I don't know. I Googled it, and that's what they told me. And that he's been masquerading as a Union soldier. So.
Okay.
I don't know. I believe it. But I don't know why he had to run away from the rest of them and were like, oh, I gotta compose myself and then continue to run. Like, what?
Said, come on, Sinclair, get it together.
Yeah, why? Like, dude, you're gonna get found out. You ran away and now you're running back? Like, what's going on?
That was to remind us what his name was, I think.
I guess. Yeah. Honestly, though, true.
Someone mentioned this is basically just Finn from Force Awakens.
Yeah.
Like the intro scene with him.
Beatriz, what did you think of the post-credit scene?
I mean, he was part of the Union though, right? This guy. He was a Union soldier.
Yeah. Right?
That we can say that for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So is it that like, I don't know. It can mean a lot of things. Did he just like wake up, or was he always like, was it that he was a spy for our side, but then in fact he's part of the unit? Like maybe, I don't know, maybe it was one's the like, I don't know. I don't know. There's a lot this could mean. I'm not going to read into it because, are we is this like something that we're actually going to see in the second season, or are we just, not?
This is such a classic Ruby post credit scene. Like, who cares about Sinclair? Why are we doing this at the end? Like, no one was asking for the Sinclair follow up. When I saw this, I thought, oh, Sinclair's actually alive. He didn't die in there. Or I thought, oh, they'd made backups of Sinclair. But then that's a good point, that there was an original Sinclair that they took his identity of. And if the guy's calling himself Sinclair, that was just a fake before. So I guess this is original Sinclair. I guess that makes sense.
But that's what I mean. It's like, if he's a Union foot soldier, then why did they want to make a copy of him? Why couldn't they have just sent the Union Sinclair, who's an actual person?
Oh, what? Because he looks like the original one? Like, he looks like the guy
I mean, no. If this is okay, because the copy, I'm assuming there was like a spy who looked like Sinclair, or I don't know who said they were Sinclair but wasn't, and they got on the Holon and then they died. Right? That's what happened. My thing is, if the Union had Sinclair all along, and Sinclair was a foot soldier for the Union, and they had him, why couldn't they just go, Sinclair, we need you to go over there, get into your Holon, get your robot, and come back to us? Like, why did they have to make like a fake one, is my question. If he was under the Union command in the first place.
I have no idea if what you're saying even checks out, because I don't know remember either. Sinclair. Like,
I don't either.
I can't fact check that. I don't remember or care about Sinclair, so that's my answer.
I remember I was just like, oh yeah, he's the dude that tried to steal Holon and got waxed. Okay, yep. This was a thing. And I only knew about the end stinger because I'm like, okay, let's see. It's Rooster Teeth. There's an end stinger, isn't there? Hey, look at that. What do you know? And
what you got? Monkey wings or Sinclair being alive?
Ooh,
neither.
I'll go Sinclair being alive, because when I saw the monkey wings, I'm just like, come on, are we really doing Wizard of Oz now?
What do you mean? Are we? They've been doing it for
okay. We're not getting into that.
That's like, are we really doing another fairy tale?
Just give us one post-credit scene we care about.
This.
Where's the fairy Beatriz? Where's the fairy tales in Genlock? That's my question.
In Genlock.
Yeah.
In Genlock, the fairy tale. I'm not very familiar with fairy tales, so you have to give me a second.
You're the one that's yelling about fairy tales with the.
No, I mean in Ruby, like for John being like, oh, okay, the monkeys.
They made it very blatant. Okay,
I'm like, they've always done the Wizard of Oz in Ruby. That's like to say that is to be like, oh, another fairy tale in Ruby. It's like that.
They don't make it so blatant as they. But okay, that's
the obvious fairy tale in Genlock is Humpty Dumpty. Humpty Dumpty is chased. He sat on the wall. Wall is the robot. He had a great fall. Great fall is he's dead. All the king's horses is Dr. Weller.
Okay.
That was a nice attempt, but we didn't really get there. Okay, so
damn.
that's Whomst was my reaction to Sinclair at the end. Really, like, actually though, looking back the season, the Sinclair stuff in episode 2 was the worst part of the season. So the classic RT decision to bring him back for the stinger, like just reuse your worst element. No, I don't know. Maybe we'll do something interesting with him, but it's just a non-entity.
I guess I understand why he stayed in the opening, I guess, was so people
right, because he's a character now.
Face recognition, they'd be like, oh, he's that guy from the opening that died. Like, now he's coming back. But I honestly,
it'll all make sense in season 6.
Exactly. There we go.
I'm looking over the character list. Mark Holcroft, no follow-up to that. We think he's evil, but nothing about that. Julian's sister and mom, we mentioned last episode that they died or something, but we thought towards the beginning of the show that there was going to be some reveal with his sister, but I still think they're alive.
No, because they saw them, and when they went to the Ethernet, someone pointed out that Julian's sister was there, and she noticed him and reached her hand out, and then he just...
no follow-up on that. Okay.
No follow-up, but that's like an Easter egg thing, so I'm assuming that might be explored.
Yeah. So that'll be good. Let me conclude here with my overall take on Genlock for the season, then afterwards you guys can tell me whether you agree. I am so impressed with this season of Genlock. I think, like... First of all, I'm going to start off by saying that I think this season of Genlock is better than any season of Ruby. And we just had such a great season of Ruby. Like, we loved Ruby Volume 6. It was by far the best season of the show. I think this Genlock Season 1 is even better. And, like, that's kind of incredible that the show's first season got to that heights. I think this is, next bold statement to make, this is the best first season of a show we've ever covered on this podcast. And we've had some really good ones, too. Like, we had Final Space first season was very good.
She-Ra, like better than
She-Ra's first.
season?
Okay, I kind of forgot about She-Ra.
Okay,
I think it's. I kind of think it's.
wait.
I don't know. It's at least tied.
It's different. It's
Mysticon's first season was so good. Craig of the Creek's in the middle, still of a fantastic first season. This is like at least up there with like She-Ra and Craig. But I guess if I'm saying it's better than Craig, I think it's better than She-Ra because they're about the same. So I think She-Ra's ultimately going to be a better show. But or I don't know. This show is so good. Like. I think Genlock's the show of the year so far in animation. It was so consistent start to finish. Like every episode is in my like top 25 so far of the year. This finale ended up being good. The highlights are 4 and 6. Those 2 episodes are astounding. This show is just consistently engaging. It's like really solid and like really well written somehow. Like I guess cause I'm comparing it to Ruby, but, I kind of just can't say enough good things about this. It's impeccably executed in the animation and storyboarding and the sounds and all the visuals. Rooster Teeth animation is just really come in full force this last year, because Volume 6 of Ruby plus this season of Genlock, that's like a powerhouse, and they're doing work that's better than most major studios, animation studios, and they're just this indie studio. I guess at this point they're probably a little bit beyond that, but like it's incredible the work they're doing. I am so impressed with this season of Genlock. We started off memeing about this show. Oh, it's going to be this ambitious series. Oh, robots, Chungus, and it turned out to be the show of the year so far. So look, what did we know? This is Genlock's great, and I'm not being ironic when I said any of this. I really mean this.
Mature topics in a stupid mech show. Who would have thought? But actually, I actually agree. I think like so far of the new shows that have come out so far this year, there's not many, but right now Genlock has a wide lead over the field. Compared to some of the new shows last year, I would actually say this is the best season 1 of any new show over the last 2 years. I would actually put this as number 1, and it's way better than Ruby Volume 1 for sure. I think just because from episode 1 to episode 8, the writing was tight. The animation was gorgeous. The ideas they presented were very thought-provoking and very interesting. The action scenes, while not always perfect, they started toward the end. They blended with the more personal, softer moments very well. It felt like fights had a story. They had a tale to tell. And yeah, I would say I think it is the better one. I like this a lot more than I think some of the other new shows we've had. As far as Rooster Teeth is concerned, like, if Ruby going forward is made with this level of care and attention, then Rooster Teeth is firing on all cylinders, and all their stuff is going to be so fun to watch for the next few years. They've done an amazing job. They've had an amazing last 7 months. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
This and Ruby V6 back to back, very, very impressive.
Yeah. And guess what? They have a chance to keep the ball going because Red versus Blue debuted today.
Sure. So we won't be covering that.
No, we won't. I just wanted to mention that just in case people were thinking about getting rid of their Rooster Teeth subscriptions. You don't have to.
At first, I was like, "Oh, is this post-credit scene a Red versus Blue trailer?" It's not the post-credit scene. No, I don't. I mean, maybe that's wrong. I don't know what that show looks like, but
they don't need to advertise Red versus Blue. At this point,
season
everybody.
25. Yeah. It's Beatriz, any overall thoughts on Genlock season 1?
I loved it. I wasn't like saying ironically that Genlock was going to be great. I remember in the beginning I was like, I have faith in Genlock, and I'm so pleased about it. Is it like the best season 1? I don't know because She-Ra was so good, and it's hard because She-Ra was like longer, had more episodes, so it's hard to say, but I mean it's up there, and I love the commitment they placed into the actual intellectual aspect of the show. This easily could have just been it easily just could have been very lighthearted, very fun, but no, they actually took the time to incorporate these very mature and sophisticated themes into the show, into the very core of the show. And I'm just so thrilled about it. I doubt that it won't get renewed. I'm pretty sure it's going to get renewed. And when
does Rooster Teeth cancel anything?
I don't know, but I mean, you can never know for certain.
I haven't heard officially. I haven't heard officially yet, but it's definitely they're definitely doing it.
So I'm just so pleased with it. I'm so pleased with the details that they actually they placed on the show, and I want more Cammy. I want more Kazu. I don't want to say goodbye to this family. I don't want to say goodbye to them, and that's kind of crazy that they were able to start the show with them all meeting for the first time. And then by the end of the show, you can believe that they're this very solid unit. And it's like, that's not easy to do in 13 episodes. That's not easy to do in 24 to 26 episodes. And not a lot of shows do it in that time. And this show managed to do it in 8 episodes. I mean, it's just so tightly written, so effective, so efficient. And I'm just in awe of it.
In awe of Genlock. That's our last thoughts on Genlock. Let us know were you also in awe of Genlock? Let us know in the comments or at overlyanimated.com or youtube.com/overlyanimated. Maybe we'll get some Genlock season wrap up or some off-season Genlock podcasts. So subscribe to not miss any of our future potential Genlock content. At the very least, we'll be back for season 2. And our Genlock specific iTunes feed, you could Google or you could search on iTunes for that, Genlock Overly Animated. Yeah, and tell us what you thought on our Discord as well, our Genlock channel. A lot going on there at overlyanimated.com/Discord. Support us via Patreon at patreon.com/overlyanimated. Thanks to our current patrons, especially our Patreon podcast. I'll make this Patreon podcast Taylor, a.k.a. Needle, number one Genlock fan. And thanks as always to our Patreon executive producers, John, Ryan, Steve, Alex, and Hugh. Yeah, we got other stuff coming up at overlyanimated.com tomorrow. Not maybe a lot of crossover in the audience, but Star vs. the Force of Evil is back for season 4. We've also been covering The Promised Neverland every week. That's been very good. And other stuff at overlyanimated.com. Maybe we'll get some more takes on the Genlock finale. Hopefully, let us know if you want that, if you want more Genlock stuff. I don't know. We want to talk about the show more. Hype. When's Genlock season 2? Let us know. Rooster Teeth. Let's go. Let's get it going. Probably next year. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it was like
when isn't like the expo happening like relatively soon? Like
they'll probably do it. They'll probably do it at their thing. Yeah, that's how they always do it. So I don't know. Maybe January 2020. That'd be fantastic. Okay. Thanks for listening, guys. We will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Take care.